Hello, I'm Jude Scott, and this is a guide to setting up your watercolour palette. What makes a good palette? What paints to use? Where do I place them? And what are the must-have colours to use? Plus, at the end, there's a bonus colour mixing session. I always squeeze the tubes out into my empty pans, which come with this Barry Herniman's beautiful paint box, which I'll go through with you in just a moment. But it's very important when you squeeze your tubes of paint out into these boxes, leave your lid open for a couple of days so that you can pick up the paint easily and freely on the tip of your brush. Don't let them dry out. But if they do dry out, the Holbein paints that I'm using, all you have to do is squirt them with water and leave them for 5 minutes and they reconstitute beautifully. But it's very important to squeeze out probably half a tube of paint and fill up those little wells in this Barry Herniman's paint box. So I'll go through with setting up the colours in just a moment. But if you want to paint fresh, vibrant flowers, it's great to have a wonderful paint box like this. It has lots of large mixing spaces, as you can see. There's 8 on each side and the big one at the top is divided. It holds 14 different colours and it also has a flat little palette which is great for mixing. All my reds are together, my blues are together and my yellows are together. I'll just hold that up hoping that you can see it. I use titanium white in that small square, and that area there that's flat next around the white is for when you're doing plein air. You can hold the palette with your thumb rests there and won't get in the paint. I'll go through each of the colours with you when we set up the palette in a moment, and I'll paint it on paper. And this is great. It's got a cloverleaf embossed there. It's a great section to test out your colours on and just see. With the white background you can see quite clearly what the colour is that you're mixing. So if you're going off for 20 minutes, just shut that little palette mixing part and leave the rest open, and then you can close up the lids, pop it back into your backpack. Perfect for plein air. It's small, light, and very, very sturdy. I've carried mine all over the world and painted. I've dropped it on concrete and nothing has ever happened to it. Now here's, you can send away for these. They are a carry box for the inserts that go into your paint box. They don't come, you just buy this separately. They don't come with the side wings that are your matching paint palettes, the mixing palettes, mixing part of the palette. And they're just to store a couple of extra sets of paint in. You might want one for your studio, you might want one to take plein air, one to keep in the studio, so they're very handy for that. So here I'm mixing up titanium white, which of course you can't see in the video, and I'll just list these at the side. This one is a Holbein paint. All my paints are Holbein, and it's a beautiful colour, Mars Violet, very, very versatile. You can get the most fabulous greys, warm greys and cool greys using Mars Violet. And, whoops, I've just splashed paint there. So Cobalt and Mars Violet make a great grey, but I'll be going over that with you at the end of the session and showing you all the different colours that we can mix from just these 14. This one's Quinacridone Red. It's my favourite red. All my colours except for neutral tint, except for cadmium yellow and titanium white are all transparent, which transparent paints are very important because watercolour works on the fact that as the light shines on the paint, it goes through the paint to the paper, hits the white paper and bounces back to your eye. That's how you see, I'm just strengthening this one up a little bit, that's how your eye sees colour on watercolour paper. Acrylics and oils, the light bounces off the surface of the paint, but with watercolour, because it's so fine and delicate, it goes through the paint. So if you've got opaque colours which you're trying to put transparent over the top, please don't, you're wasting your time, it won't work. But opaque colours will go beautifully over the top of your transparent ones. So all the cadmium colours are opaque, and all of the other colours that I use here are transparent. So neutral tint, I haven't actually used neutral tint a lot because I thought, no, people, you shouldn't use black, but I've started to use it quite a bit, especially in flower painting. I usually use it where I'm making either indigo, because I just mix it with Prussian Blue, or I use it with red to make very dark centres for flowers or anywhere where I want a very dark red. And it gives you a beautiful dark red that you can't get in any other form. So there I've got neutral tint. I will write next to that in a moment that it's opaque. The next one I'm doing here is Prussian Blue. Prussian Blue is a staining colour. Very, very staining, very powerful colour. You don't need to use a lot of it. And as I said before, it's a marvellous base colour for mixing other paints with. It's a cold blue, a very, very cold blue, but you can get wonderful purples, you can get wonderful indigos, you can get fantastic greens, all using that very icy cold Prussian Blue. Now, I use ultramarine, and mine is a dark. There is a light ultramarine in Holbein, but I use ultramarine dark, and that's a wonderful versatile blue. You'll use 3 times as much blue when you go out shopping or using your paint. When you need to go and get more, it's always ultra blue and cobalt that you need the most of. And yes, they're expensive, but they're very finely ground and they lift off beautifully. So save yourself money buying lots of different paint and get some that are just perfect for the job, that will mix and produce lots of other lovely colours. So I've started now with my yellows. So you can see all my reds are together, my blues are together. I've classed neutral tint as a blue there. I've started with the yellows with burnt sienna at the top, which incidentally is the same colour as outback dirt in Australia. We have lots of red dirt, rich in iron ore. The next colour down is cadmium deep yellow orange. Now that's an opaque colour. I don't use it very much, but it is handy to have. I've got Quinacridone Gold, which is fantastic for mixing. My favourite yellow is Aureolin Yellow, and then I've got yellow ochre. Usually I have raw sienna in my paint box, but I've ended up with I've ended up with yellow ochre. So next time I buy it, I think I'll probably go back to raw sienna, but at the moment it's yellow ochre, and it's great for mixing using different greens. It's great in a landscape, and it's a very versatile colour to have. It's also opaque, but when you mix it in your paint box or on your paper with a transparent colour, you will get a semi-transparent paint. So there we are. I've listed all the colours for you. I've listed the opaques. I've left off, I can see, yellow ochre, but that's okay. So now we're going to go and start mixing some wonderful colours. So here I've got indigo, I've used Prussian Blue, and I've used a neutral tint. So when I finish this, I will have on the right hand side, I'll list all the colours that I've used, and I'll go back to the examples that I'm mixing for you, and I'll put the code next to it, exactly what I've used, so that you can go and mix another, I think I end up with 16 colours out of this, plus the 14 that you have in your paint box. That will give you a total of 30 colours. And you can keep going and going forever. So the one just above this, I've used burnt sienna, and I've used Aureolin Yellow, which gives you a lovely, rich, quite a light red, like a reddish orange. And depending on if you want to put a lot more yellow with that, you get even a richer yellow gold, or if you want to put more burnt sienna with that, you'll get a more of an outback red colour. The next one is Cobalt and Permanent Rose. Very versatile colours, both of those, Permanent Rose and Cobalt. And because I'm painting on hot pressed paper, it is giving me lots of cauliflowers, which I don't mind in abstracts or floral work or vegetation. Abstracts can look fantastic. And as that dries, it will sort of almost swim across the surface of the paper and produce lots of cauliflowers and variations within the wet square of paint. This is neutral tint and Prussian blue, so that's my indigo, and that will dry a lot lighter. When you're mixing paint, the more water you use with the paint, the paler it will be when it dries, because as things dry, the water will sink into the paper, and if you're using medium pressed or rough paper, more water will sink into the paper and your colour will be a lot lighter. That's why when you mix it on hot pressed paper like I have today, it will tend to stay a lot brighter, which is what I wanted, to show you the true colours of the watercolours as an example for mixing. Now here I've used burnt sienna and Quinacridone Gold, and the one I'm mixing now is burnt sienna and permanent rose. There is a colour you can buy called red brown. A lot of people use it on rooftops, terracotta rooftops, things like that, but you don't really need to buy it because I've just painted it here for you with permanent rose and burnt sienna. Beautiful, beautiful, warm, pinky red, brown, pinky brownish red. So the next one I'm going to mix up is Quinacridone Gold. You can see that's a very cold yellow, and if I put Prussian Blue into that, look at this gorgeous, gorgeous green that can happen. It's very dark because I've used a lot of Prussian Blue. So Prussian Blue, and I'll put a little dot of Quinacridone Gold there. And that is a wonderful green if you're doing maybe a vase of flowers or something and you want some really dark green. It's a beautiful, rich, dark green. If you want a warmer green, almost a green like you have in Outback Australia, in gum leaves, things like that. This green here is exactly the same two colours, Prussian Blue and Quinacridone Gold, but I've used a lot more Quinacridone Gold. A gorgeous, vibrant, rich green. So I'm using some Prussian Blue here, quite strong. You don't need to put black with colours to make them strong. You just need to put more pigment and less water. So the darker your colour is, use stronger pigment, just put less water in. So that's the same colour that I've used above. And you can see into that I've put Prussian Blue, and I've put, there we've got the Prussian Blue, and it's quite a cool green, and I've put some Aureolin Yellow instead of using the Quinacridone Gold. So the two yellows give me totally different shades of green. One's a very bright, the bottom one's a very bright spring green, and the one above it is middle of summer or green that you would find in a hotter climate. So mixing greens, a lot of people find difficult, but it's so important to learn how to do it. And if you can learn to mix your own colours, you save yourself a fortune on paint and save it for buying more paper and more experimenting with your watercolours. So it's very important too, when you fill, I think I said when you fill your paint box up with paint, leave the lid open for a few days, depending where you live. In Western Australia, like I am at the moment, it would take about 2 hours and your paint would be dried out enough to pop into your backpack. But in other countries or in winter, it won't dry out as quickly. So you have to leave it to just firm up a little bit, and then if it falls upside down in your case or bag or backpack, it won't matter. Now with the colour above, Same two colours, but I've added white, titanium white to this, so I've got a tertiary colour. Tertiary colours have got three colours mixed, so they become tertiary, and some of these tertiary shades are just so beautiful, much nicer than straight out of your paint box. So in the green just above, I've used titanium white, same Prussian blue, and the same Aureolin Yellow. So here I've used, again, I've used titanium white, and I've used Prussian blue. And there you have a beautiful, I'd call it a cerulean yellow. So I don't have cerulean blue. I don't have cerulean in my paint box because for me, I've got four blues and that's enough. That's my Prussian, my Ultramarine Deep, my Cobalt Blue 290 and Cobalt Turquoise. So I can actually mix a Cobalt Turquoise using my Prussian Blue white, and I can put some yellow with that. But for the sake of expediency and just being quick, it's just nice to be able to dig your brush in and scoop out some Cobalt Turquoise. So here I've used Prussian Blue on both of those different greens, and they're, especially the bottom one, I love. It's a beautiful jade green. Some of the juvenile eucalyptus leaves are that fantastic, almost jade green, and they both have Aureolin Yellow mixed with them with the titanium white. So keep your paints moist, spray them before you start to paint, and squeeze, fill up your wells with paint straight from the tube and leave it to set and just firm up a little bit. So we've got all these wonderful colours that we've mixed up. I think now it's time to do some grey. So on this flat mixing section of the Barry Herniman's paint box, it's great because when you're sort of sliding your brush across that white surface, you can see the true colour of your paint. Some people mix their paint up on glass and things like that, or have a coloured plastic palette. You need white because then you have an idea of the true colour of the paint. So this colour, I've used some Mars Violet, but I've put more Cobalt Blue 290 in that than I have Mars Violet. So it's more of a blue-grey, but you can easily mix up a darker grey, a warmer grey by putting more Mars Violet in. Into this one, it's exactly the same mix, and see how much greener this is. So here I've used yellow ochre, and I've used Cobalt Blue 290, and I've used the Mars Violet, and I've got this wonderful grey green. So there's four greens that I can mix using my paints that I've already got in my palette. You don't have to go out and buy a huge palette with 50 colours in that you will probably not use. And I think I've said before, if you learn to use the paints, get the best out of the paints with mixing that you have already in your palette, you will learn so much more about colour. I've come to realise there's only four ways you can go with colour. You can either go lighter or darker, so that's a tone, or you can go temperature, warmer or cooler. So that's lighter or darker, warmer or cooler. There's no other way that you can go with colour. So when you're thinking, what colour do I use here, just think, do I need it to be dark or light? Do I need it to be warmer or cooler? And it will solve a lot of issues for you. So again here I've done a grayer grey with more blue and Mars Violet and less yellow ochre. And I've put a little bit of Prussian Blue in there as well. So that's again another grey, a cooler grey than the one that's right up the very top. So I'll mix up now some just slashes of colour so that you can see how the colours go, just mixing them on the paper. So there you can see I've used Quinacridone Red, and I've mixed Aureolin Yellow together in the first one. The second one I've got Quinacridone Gold, and I've got Prussian Blue, and in the third one I've got Prussian Blue, Quinacridone Gold, and so on. So you can take a screenshot of this and print it off. The paper I've used is hot pressed Fabriano 240 gram, and it's from a pad. So it's a great way to mix your colours and experiment with them. And you can see down the right hand side, I hope that's clear for you. I will list all these colours that I've used in the materials list at the end of the video. Just look underneath in show more section, and all of this information will be available for you. So take a screenshot and use it. So again, if you want those beautiful, fresh, vibrant colours, have your palette clean it out every time before you start a painting, and then you can pick up exactly the right amount of paint. I love thick, luscious colour to start with, and then I always add water, lots of water to mine to get it to soften like I have on the edge of the petal there. You might want to add some more green to that stem. I love those bleeds and runs that go back up into the petals. I think they make it so interesting. And look, I hope this has helped with setting up your palette, mixing some new colours. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel to receive the latest tutorial videos when they're released. Happy painting. Cheers, Jude.